but the Royal Rumble is over, and 5 matches, not a lot, but boy, 4.5 hours it took for 5 matches, and with every single result being as predictable as they could be. But I will say one thing, Brandon, even though the results were 100% what we picked, I will say that I was still entertained from start to finish.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely was entertained. I mean, it wasn't the greatest Royal Rumble of all time. I think that's up for debate. But I know a lot of people felt really high off of the Sami Zayn Roman Reigns angle at the end, which, by the way, they couldn't have pulled that off any better. That was one of the best moments I've seen in a long time. But looking at the whole picture, I thought that was cool that they started the men's Royal Rumble match. Started the night off by doing that. That was cool. I mean, we predicted it. Cody Rhodes is going to win the match, but it was cool. Like, Walter was the Iron Man of the match. Like, he broke the record. He was in there for over an hour and change like that. That was cool. I wasn't surprised by that part of it either. I figured if anyone's going to run very, deep into this, into that match, I figured it would have been Walter. I feel like they're going to strap a rocket to that guy. He's eventually going to be going to the moon. I see in the next couple years here, he's going to be one of the faces of this company, and he's going to be holding some major titles in between now and then. And I will tell you, like, Cody Rhodes, I mean, he looked good. He looked fresh. I mean, I thought the way they built it, they wanted to show the fans, and it was great where Walter just did his famous chop after chop on Cody Rhodes, hitting him right where that surgically repaired injury, the pectoral muscle, which 9-10 months ago fell out. It was off the bone, and they put that right to the test, and Cody Rhodes looked good, and it was. There were some cool moments, like the Ricochet and the Logan Paul moment. That was cool. Like, I heard a lot of oohs and ahs, and I saw some video from people that were actually at the show. I wasn't there, so I'll get your thoughts on that in a second. But that was cool. I really liked. I was pretty happy with it overall because we didn't need all those big surprises. We
basically had none. We had one woman surprise in Michelle McCool, right? And then we had one men's surprise in Booker T. Edge could be kind of considered a surprise. I mean, he was on the poster for the show, but he hasn't been around in a while. So
I will say this: I normally complain about we got to get these guys in, this and that. We're gonna bring in Jay White or all these different names out there. I thought they did a pretty good job with it overall. The only issue I had was why didn't we were texting during the show. I know obviously you were there, so we were going back and forth a little bit throughout the show. And I'm wondering at what point are we gonna slide somebody in for Rey Mysterio?
So
I thought that's what was gonna happen. I thought Rey Mysterio was gonna get pushed out.
And listen, you're not the only one. I read that a few times on Twitter, but I do have to say, and I said it to you, that is kind of something that they've done before. So that's not the first time I've seen that. I think a couple of years ago, and we talked about that in the Weird Wild Rules of the Royal Rumble on last week's video. People have been attacked in the back before. Most of the time they show it. They'll be like, oh, why did that person come out? And then they'll show backstage the Mean Street Posse attacking somebody or something like that. So that I didn't think someone was coming out for Rey Mysterio. I read that from Paul Esden, one of our former co-hosts of this show. Who's going to come out for Rey? Is someone going to come out at the end? And when Rey didn't come out, I thought maybe he personally might come out during the match, but when it was just Cody and Gunther, no, I wasn't expecting some sort of, is somebody going to come out after this? Because they've never done that before, and people have been attacked before. And I thought they made it kind of clear when obviously Dominic came out with Rey Mysterio's mask that no one was going to take his place. So that is not unnew for WWE. They've done that before where somebody has been attacked and didn't enter the Rumble. We've seen it before where somebody was coming out to the ring and somebody kept attacking them along the way before they were finally thrown in. I think, was it Heath Slater? I think he came out one year and it might have been 2021, the year that the COVID year, that they attacked him 6 times on the way to the ring before he finally entered the Royal Rumble match. But I wasn't surprised for that. I will say the one negative about the finish, love kind of how they draw it out. The one negative, though, is because it was a lengthy finish with Sami turning on Roman at the end of the show, people were a little tired. A lot of people, and I don't want to say a lot, but a decent amount of people had left once the bell rang for the final match. So if that would have been done maybe in the middle of the show, or at the beginning of the show or whenever, people obviously would have stuck around for the end. And with the Royal Rumble itself, you're going to stick around until somebody wins. So in that case, if Cody ended the show as the Royal Rumble winner, people would be leaving, but that's okay because there's still nothing to see but the pyro off the WrestleMania sign. But for actually still having something to do in the Sammy Roman match, people were essentially heading for the exits as it was like 11:20 local time. People were like, all right, we got to go. And some people didn't even know maybe it was going to happen. They just thought the match was over, so they were taking off. There wasn't they're not going to leave in the middle of the Royal Rumble. But when a match is over and you're kind of sticking around to see if something happens, some people don't have that instinct. Some people don't wait until, essentially the lights come on. And they take off because they think, all right, the bell rang, this one's over. So it could have got a little better of a pop. It was a full crowd for the Roman Sammy thing.
But I'll be honest with you. When I heard it on the pay-per-view on the Peacock, I thought it was a good reaction. I thought that I heard a lot of a lot of reaction from listening to it. And I'm like, whoa, all right, cool. Like that's what I was waiting for. I wanted to hear kind of like the ooh or like the oh wow, I heard that. I know you were there, so
and definitely, and people were waiting for sure. They were waiting to give that reaction, and I think it was pretty decent. I'm just saying, I'm just nitpicking, like one little thing that might have been able to be different. I guess is the best way to put it.
I will say this, I just really quick on the men's Royal Rumble. The thing I would nitpick a little bit, I didn't really care for the Rey Mysterio situation, like. I
think that's setting up for Dominic and Rey WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. And I get that you're trying to build matches. I mean, I did like the Bobby Lashley Brock Lesnar situation there. That was obviously they're building for something there. That's cool. And the same thing with you have good reasons to get rid of Finn Balor, Judgment Day with the whole Edge situation. So that was cool. But I would have liked to seen somebody come out for Rey. Like I was kind of like, I wasn't getting my hopes up, but I was kind of like, our old colleague here at the Heel of the Face, Boy Green, Paul Esden Jr. I was kind of hoping that we would see okay, we only had 29, real entrants going through the ropes. Maybe The Rock comes. I know that wasn't probably going to happen, but I was like, okay. Maybe they're saving this to make it a really cool way for somebody else to come in after the fact, quote unquote. But you know what? Overall, I was happy with it. There were some good moments there. It was to me, it was. I wouldn't say it was the best men's Royal Rumble match I've ever seen, but it was solid. It kept me entertained throughout.
I will say if somebody did come out at the end, they would have had to do one of those on the mic, explain the situation. Because like I said, a lot of people, including myself, when let's say Cody won, if let's say the Rock's music hit, not everyone would have instinctually thought, oh, he's taking Rey's spot. He would have had to get on the mic and he would have had to been like, I'm here to take the spot for Rey Mysterio.
It's a perfect way to bring Adam Pearce into the show. Like bring him into that part of it. You could at the end, Adam Pearce just says.
You mean how the New Day did at WrestleMania when they came out and said, we have one more tag team to add to this match, and then the Hardy Boys music hit.
Yes, do it like that, but it's and this is how he has his shtick, and it's official, whatever, his his little shtick, and then the music hits, you pause for a second, and then and then you hear
that would have been a good swerve because kind of what I want to talk about now, obviously, is Cody Rhodes winning the Royal Rumble, what we kind of predicted. He came out as number 30. Everyone knew when he was coming out, obviously. I think, and listen, I was not a anti-surprise Cody Rhodes person when they said announced him, but the fact that they then had him come out at 30 made me be like, this might have been better actually if it was kind of a surprise and more just we think he's coming out. But sometimes there's things you think are going to happen at wrestling. Let's say the Bray Wyatt at Extreme Rules, but when time is ticking and you're like, it might not happen. I thought it was going to happen, but that's the credit on the screen. The show's going off the air. Maybe it's not happening. And I think if they were going to have Cody come out at 30 and then did none of those vignettes, none of those video packages with Cody Rhodes, and then essentially had him come out at 30, because again, at 29, we'd have said, wait a minute, maybe Cody isn't coming. There's only one spot left. They would have kept us like on the edge of our seat that maybe it isn't Cody, but that kind of thing. Similar to what they did with Ronda Rousey when she made her debut, and we thought she was coming out at the Rumble, and then the Royal Rumble ended and she didn't come out, and we're like, I guess we were wrong. And then she came out after the match. So it would have been a way to kind of make 30 more special if they didn't announce that he was going to be in the match, because then clearly we were knowing he was coming out at 30 once 29 hit. But we're getting some backlash a little bit, and I understand, because I'm kind of one of those people, because while I did pick Cody to win the Royal Rumble and while I did pick Rhea Ripley to win the Royal Rumble, I wanted to be wrong in the sense of it was just too predictable. And listen, I love Cody, but I feel like since his return, they've kind of made it like too much that they're going to just shoot him right to WrestleMania and right to the championship spot. And I think at WrestleMania, and I'm not saying that he really has that much more unfinished business with Seth Rollins, but I think it's just, I just feel like it's too predictable. I want to see someone knock off Roman Reigns that is at least somewhat of a surprise, and someone who has the physique of someone we haven't seen yet. Because let's be honest, Cody Rhodes isn't Brock Lesnar, isn't Drew McIntyre, isn't one of these big guys. And as Vince McMahon said, when Brock Lesnar beat the streak, who else is going to beat the streak? And I'm not saying that it made sense entirely for Brock Lesnar to do it, because he'd already faced some pretty big competition in the past and they didn't break the streak, and it might have been better to just not break it. But I'm not saying Brock Lesnar beats Roman Reigns either, but I'm just saying, like, I would kind of maybe like someone he hasn't faced, and I know he hasn't faced Cody, but like an Omos, even a Braun Strowman, he hasn't faced in this title reign. Someone that looks a little more predictable, and then Cody can go after Braun, Cody can go after Omos, Cody can go after Bobby Lashley. We still, again, really haven't seen Roman and Bobby Lashley legitimately, and I know they're going to have Bobby and Brock, but I think if you can't have Brock and Roman again, Bobby's the next person that kind of gives you that Roman and Brock feel, that two behemoths going at it. So it'd be like back-to-back years of that. And this time it might be Bobby knocking him off, and then you can have, Cody go after Bobby or whatever. I just think Cody it's too, I'm going to be rooting for Roman, I guess, in that sense. And I didn't think I would be. I thought this would be the end, but I'm going to be rooting for Roman. Who knows who's going to win? I'm probably going to be Cody. But it's just like, really, you have him lose to Drew. And personally, that's one of my picks that I had in the Royal Rumble this year. When Drew came out, I was like, you know what? Maybe have Drew win it again. Drew get his due at WrestleMania, the one he didn't get at WrestleMania 36 in 2020. Give Drew another shot. I think he was the best competitor so far in this title reign for Roman Reigns, the most, one where I thought he was going to lose at Clash at the Castle. Give him the spot. Give Cody Rhodes another big time match for sure, and have Drew maybe be the one to knock him off. What do you think about that stuff?
I don't mind Drew McIntyre. I think he definitely deserves his due, considering he held the fort down as the champion, during the COVID era, like that. Tip of the cap for Drew to do that, and he did a great job. And you're right, he does deserve that pop. Maybe that's next year. I don't want to book it out too far. We just got past this Royal Rumble. I don't want to book 2024 already, but that's a possibility. And, if the predictable answer is Cody Rhodes wins at WrestleMania against Roman, the streak's over, all this. But here's another layer to it that you got me thinking about with Bobby Lashley. And they've been planting the seeds of the Hurt Business getting back together as a unit. How cool would that be to have the Bloodline versus the Hurt Business and building some stuff up there, where Bobby Lashley has his guys, like his enforcers, and obviously, Roman Reigns has his enforcers, and then they can just, Bobby and Roman can just go after it, like just go hard, and like, okay, there's not going to be any like shenanigans. They can just be a really good match, because the Usos will kind of be, under control in a sense, with having, you have Shelton Benjamin, and then what the heck? I forget the other
Cedric Alexander.
Cedric Alexander, thank you. Having him there, and also MVP can also play a role as well. He's a former champion. Like, he could still go in certain situations. So you could still have a 3-on-3 situation when you include Solo Sikoa. So, like, you could still even the odds, because we know Paul Heyman isn't going to get physical. We already know that. But that would be kind of cool. But I do think what they're going to do is, I think Cody Rhodes and Roman are going to headline the show, and Cody Rhodes is going to get his WrestleMania moment, and then we'll see what happens from there. And that's going to be the interesting part, is what would be next for Roman Reigns after, assuming he loses the championship at WrestleMania. We'll get there, obviously, but, I'm kind of curious to see what he'll do next, because maybe this is one of those things where he has dipped his toes in Hollywood and he's accomplished so much, and he's already maybe goes out on a high note and does some other things for a little bit and follows in his the footsteps of The Rock, for example. I mean, no one's going to get to The Rock's level, I don't think, when it comes to the box office portion of it. But he's dipped his toes in the movie industry, so I could see him doing some other stuff potentially. I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard rumors that he's going to do that, but that's something that could possibly be on the table. And then, assuming Cody Rhodes wins at that point, I'm curious to see how they're going to play that out, because if you're going to fantasy book it down the line, imagine how crazy this would be. Cody Rhodes has the title all the way to this time next year, and he's facing some guy named Maxwell Jacob Friedman in WWE, because the bidding war of 2024 is coming up.
I'm more looking at probably some of his early title defenses are probably with Seth Rollins and such. But staying with the here and now, one big complaint that I have is that we are 2.5 weeks from Elimination Chamber, and we haven't seen it yet because both the Bloodline essentially wasn't on Raw this week. But for all accounts, especially seeing the Chamber matches have already been announced, and while I imagine they're going to be good, neither of them have anything grand on the line. One is for the United States Championship, and one is for the number one contendership for Bianca Belair. I want to say this, when it comes to Elimination Chamber, has been, when it comes to stakes, some of the lowest stakes in the history of the Elimination Chamber. Obviously, the Elimination Chambers, when they were by themselves on pay-per-views, were always for the world title, and then they've had the pay-per-views since, where you've had multiple Elimination Chambers, and on occasion one would be for the world belt and one would be for something else, but we've never had any where 0 are for the world belt. And I would think that, okay, well, the women's championship is going to be on the line in one of them, right? And it's the U.S. title and then a number one contendership. So some very low stakes. It's very odd, but what that means is we're going to get one of the more highly anticipated world title matches, most likely, in Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn, a storyline obviously that has been working great, that has been going on for months, and the blow-off is most likely going to happen at Elimination Chamber. And the major complaint that I have for this, barring some swerve from WWE, which, again, I would love you to swerve me, I want things to happen that I'm not predicting, and that is, this is a huge, highly anticipated match, and this is essentially getting the same thought of me going to a house show and seeing Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns in what would be a very highly anticipated world title match at a house show that's not announced the night before Roman Reigns puts the title on the line at WrestleMania in a very highly anticipated match, which means, wow, way to ruin this match at Elimination Chamber, because clearly Roman Reigns is going to win and defeat Sami Zayn in some way, because you've already announced. It had been one thing for Cody Rhodes to say after Elimination Chamber, I'm going to make my announcement of who I'm going to face, or down the line, or hold it off. But he made the announcement, Roman Reigns, I'm not going for the title, I'm going for Roman Reigns. We've already made the poster. We've already made the marquee. It's Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. It's not going to be Sami Zayn versus Cody Rhodes. And I'm not saying that, that would ever really be a possibility, but if this was happening, let's say not around WrestleMania time, around Money in the Bank, around SummerSlam, a different event, possibly could be Sami Zayn winning the world belt. Jinder Mahal won the world belt against Randy Orton, and that surprised everybody. But he didn't win it the night before Randy Orton was already on a poster and a billboard to face Bray Wyatt for the world title at WrestleMania. They're not going to do that. So, for Sami Zayn to essentially do a Jinder Mahal and pull a swerve and win the world title and be kind of this world champion that no one saw coming, it would probably happen not with already programs made up with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes' face printed on them. So it's doing this big match a real disservice at Elimination Chamber, with the sense that, Cody Rhodes didn't even acknowledge that there's a chance Roman Reigns couldn't be the champion. He's like, I'm going after Roman Reigns. I'm going after that world belt. End of story. And that kind of is like, hey, this match, in which many people think could be WrestleMania caliber themselves. That's why a lot of people wanted Sami Zayn to win the Royal Rumble. So this isn't just some sort of filler between the pay-per-views. I'd rather see Sami not face Roman for the title and have this storyline go into the future, because this is a WrestleMania worthy main event in a lot of people's eyes. And the fact that you're having it at a pay-per-view when you've already announced the WrestleMania main event does it a disservice.
No, you're right. I agree with that, and you called it too. I mean, I think you called it last week or the show before. I mean, you were saying, yep, it's going to probably be Sami and Roman at Elimination Chamber, so, hats off to you on that one.
And they haven't announced it yet, but yeah.
But it's happening. We all know it's happening, because they need to have a little steam on this pay-per-view, because like you just mentioned, what's the stakes at this show? There's not a lot of great big huge stakes, involved in this pay-per-view. So they got to be able to get some eyeballs, and what better eyeballs than Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns? Now, I will say this. I would like to see it where Roman Reigns looks really bad. He looks like he's very vulnerable against Sami Zayn. And then, essentially the bloodline saves him from Sami Zayn defeating him. And then this would be the cool swerve. Sami Zayn gets inserted into the Cody Rhodes Roman Reigns match and make it a triple threat. I'm not saying that's happening, but you want to talk about swerve. That would be a cool swerve. And you check those boxes. You get the Royal Rumble winner facing Roman Reigns. You also get to finish off and pop off that storyline and put maybe a final nail into the Sami Zayn part of it. Which, here's the thing, you could still have, and at that point, you're making Roman Reigns look good, because here's the thing, you could build this way. Cody Rhodes pins Sami Zayn, wins the title in triple threat rules. Roman Reigns says, I never got pinned, I never lost. You could then bring that in, and you could drag the storyline even further. It could be a really good way to build things up to go to the next big show, which is SummerSlam. So there's a few ways you could do it. I'm just curious to see what's going to happen.
I would say the one swerve we saw at Royal Rumble was obviously Jay standing up for Sami.
Yeah.
And how I think that affected this is this. And again, I'm anti-spoiler. I'm anti-actually, this person for WWE told me this is going to happen. This is me just spitballing what I think is going to happen. So obviously Elimination Chamber's in Montreal. That's the hometowns of both Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Here's what I see happening, and I don't know how the belts are going to factor into this at all, but I see Sami Zayn losing the world title at Elimination Chamber and having Kevin Owens turn on him. I'm predicting we're going to now have, instead of Kevin and Sami teaming up against the Usos, I think we're going to have Jay and Sami versus Kevin and Jimmy at WrestleMania.
Oh, that's juicy. I just don't. I hate to disagree with you, but I can't see Kevin Owens being anywhere near the Usos on a good faith basis. Just the way it's played out, you know what I mean? I do see. I would say Sami and Jay. I could see something there, obviously, because clearly Jay is, he's kind of doing his own thing. It seems like at this point, so that part's possible. I got to be honest. I will be completely surprised if Kevin Owens somehow is in the good graces of the bloodline and then teams up with Jimmy Uso. I don't know.
That's also how that relationship always works. Obviously, it's been very much like Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, where they're together and then the one turns on the other one. Clearly, obviously, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have had a relationship very much like that. So seeing them kind of be on the same team for a minute, and then Kevin Owens said, I never needed your help kind of thing. That would be where I see this going, because I didn't see that going, obviously, with the Usos if they both beat up on Sami at the end of Royal Rumble. But with Jay kind of turning, I was wondering, okay, what are we going to do with this? And how are we going to essentially have Jay versus Sami in some capacity if they seem to be on the same team?
Here's the other piece of it,
pick that out.
The Usos are the tag champs. You know what I
I
mean?
don't know. Again, I don't know how that would work with them both having belts on.
Yeah, like if Jimmy and Jay are, not on the same page anymore, obviously Jay said, I'm out, he put it on social media. I mean, obviously they're going to build storylines through social media, which is very smart because of the social media world we're in. Mm-hmm. But they're the champs right now. So how is that going to work?
Well, I can imagine them maybe not being champs by WrestleMania. We still have a long time. And then obviously the Kevin Owens turning on Sammy as the one piece. And then Jay and Jimmy in a tag team match for the belts against, I don't know, someone else, Chad Gable and Otis or whatever. And then Jay or Jimmy then in that match kind of doing what we saw, back in the day when one person would reach out for the tag and then they'd jump off the apron and walk away and then they lose the belts. So that's how they would break up. And then, on the road to WrestleMania, the two good guys and the two bad guys would find a way to team up with each other and then have that kind of like a special attraction match. But I could see, the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn thing being one part, and then Jay and Jimmy, obviously with the dissension that we've already seen, kind of creating that dissension when they go into a tag team title defense. And like I said, I don't know which one would be which, but when one reaches for the tag, he kind of just jumps off the ring and kind of walks away, leaves them there hanging, and then they lose the belts. And then that officially breaks them up. And then we'll have a tag team match at WrestleMania featuring various tag teams, Chad Gable and Otis versus Street Profits or whatever have you. You got 2 nights to fill, so there's lots of opportunities for matches. And obviously we're looking at Seth Rollins and Logan Paul. That looks like a match we could be seeing down the line at WrestleMania. People are still saying Austin Theory and John Cena. I don't see that yet. That's definitely one of those spoiler sheets.
Theory's definitely hyping it up though. Like he keeps saying, "Hey, you're dodging me. That's been his shtick for a long time. So, if, with John Cena's filming schedule, because obviously we talked about Hollywood maybe reigns, Hollywood John Cena is full-time in that business, in that realm right now. So you could see using social media again to, they can do these back and forth clips where John Cena can still be filming in Australia. I believe it's where he's going to be filming or is filming. So you could still have this back and forth on social media, which is great because social media is such a big and famous thing, obviously. So you could build it that way where he doesn't have to show up to a Raw or SmackDown, which is kind of a letdown in that case. But he could be like, he could show up and say, you know what, I'll see you at WrestleMania or something, something like that. I would like to see it because
we've seen a few feuds built up that way. I feel like that's how we saw John Cena before his match on SmackDown a couple weeks ago. He just kind of made a vignette and said, "I'll see you on SmackDown in 2 weeks," kind of thing. So that's
they could play that again. I mean, John Cena could play that card, and John Cena could show up and put on a good match with Austin Theory. Which, you know what, a lot of people are comparing Austin Theory to John Cena for the trajectory, almost like a chosen one in a way. And Austin Theory, to me, the kid's money. I think what they're doing with him right now is they just got to keep building that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch over the next decade or so because the kid's only 25 years old. He hasn't even hit the prime of his wrestling career yet, which is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
One match that I think would actually be worthy of WrestleMania, but obviously if it's Rey versus Dominic, that'd be difficult to get. So maybe we'll get an Elimination Chamber. But how about Edge and Beth Phoenix coming up at the next pay-per-view against Dominic and Rhea? That would be a very good, interesting tag team match at that pay-per-view.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I'm just curious, when is this gonna blow? When is this gonna blow out? Blow off. You know what I mean? I just want to see this thing I want to see this finality to it. I think they're gonna. I think you got a point there. I think they'll probably put that as a mixed tag match at Mania, which
I probably think it might be a mixed tag match at Chamber just because of the fact. Well, just because we're at Mania, I think we're going to get Rey and Dominic, unless they flip flop. You know what I mean? Unless we have Rey and Dominic at Elimination Chamber.
I wouldn't want to see that. I would see that. I agree. I would like it at Elimination Chamber because to me, Rhea Ripley needs to be on the WrestleMania card for a main attraction.
Oh yeah, and that's why we're not gonna. And then now, like I said, and kind of correcting myself there. You're right. Yeah, that's not going to happen at Mania because she's facing Charlotte Flair.
But hey, it's possible. You could pull double duty. It's not impossible to do double duty. So and Rhea Ripley is one of those competitors where I think she would be. I don't think she'd be opposed to that. I think Rhea Ripley's a star, and I think she could do Saturday night, night one, the mixed match potentially, and then night two they do the Charlotte Flair angle, and guess what? It makes her look even better if she takes the title off of Charlotte. and they could, Michael Cole could be like, oh my God, she's had a busy weekend. She she was in the match against Edge and Beth, and then she came and took care of business with Charlotte. Like that, that could put her even further. That could build her up even more than she already is, because they already make her look like a wrecking ball anyway. So
with this Royal Rumble, one major complaint that I have, and it seems to be going with years past, and that's WWE doesn't seem to kind of swerve us in the sense of they kind of tell us the future, but they never give us the future now. And that's what we've seen, obviously, with like Bryan Danielson, and Daniel Bryan, not winning the Rumble when they thought it was his time. And what I mean by his time, I would rather see these people win the Royal Rumble when it's not predictable and their time become now instead of waiting until it is predictable. And this year's what I'll be specific about is Gunther. Obviously, we weren't expecting him to win the Royal Rumble, but when it got down to the end, we all saw this guy is going to main event WrestleMania in the future. So the problem with that being, similar to what we saw with Roman Reigns or when Batista won it, is that they're not going to surprise us and say, wait, no, he's going to face him now. That's awesome. We're going to be able to see his character build on the road to WrestleMania and kind of shoot him there now. We're going to instead wait until it's very predictable, until his character has been fully built, until we know that he's going to win the Royal Rumble, and then he's going to win the Royal Rumble and go on to WrestleMania. I kind of would like to see these things happen more organically. Like I said, we know Austin Theory's the future, and we know that Gunther's the future. So instead of them being the future and then being there in the world title picture, but then having to wait a little bit, put them in it now when we don't see it coming. Instead of, this football team saying like, listen, they're not going to win the Super Bowl this year, but they're going to win it next year. Forget that. Have them win it now when we don't expect it. And that'll be more interesting. Gunther winning that Royal Rumble when we know that he's going to be, we didn't know he deserved to be there then, essentially. But when he was in that final two, it was literally like he's going to be in the main event of WrestleMania in the future. Like, forget it. Just do it now. Just do it now when we don't see it coming. It's kind of like it doesn't prepare the fans, but at the same time, he's still worthy of it because we're looking at somebody who's worthy of being in that WrestleMania main event. We just know that WWE's not going to pull the trigger now, so it's a little more predictable or less predictable, and that would be more intriguing because we obviously saw Cody Rhodes, obviously with Cody Rhodes when he came back last year, that would have been a surprise for him to win the Royal Rumble and go on to WrestleMania last year. But now it's been so long and it's been built up that we know he's going to do it this time around. Same with Roman Reigns, people wanted Roman Reigns to win the Royal Rumble prior to them waiting until he was as homogenized as possible and we knew he was going to win the Royal Rumble. Then it was too late. Then people booed him because then they wanted the next young thing instead of him. So don't, pull the trigger on Roman Reigns in 2014, not 2015. Pull the trigger on Daniel Bryan, in 2014 and not 2015, 16. Pull the trigger when fans are like, no, he's just about there, and be like, he's just about there. Boom. Let's make him there. Let's just shoot him there. Let's not wait until we already know he's going to be there. So Gunther winning would have been great. I think Asuka winning or Liv Morgan winning this year's Royal Rumble would have been great. Not saying Rhea Ripley isn't there, but that was just also a little too predictable. And for the same sake as well, and I would say about Cody with Rhea Ripley, I wish he waited a little bit. Charlotte Flair's got a defense against Sonya Deville this Friday. There's still many SmackDowns to go. I think, obviously we don't think Sonya Deville is going to win the belt. But the fact that you're advertising it, the fact that you're putting it on TV, let it have a chance. Let Sonya have a chance to beat Charlotte Flair before you're already announcing her next defense. That's my one issue, I guess, here on the whole road to WrestleMania. You got a lot of TV to fill. You got 8 Raws and 8 SmackDowns to go. So give them a chance to kind of have something happen. Obviously, come March 1st, be all in on WrestleMania. But until March 1st, give us the month of February to see how things are going to play out and give us a chance to maybe see a title change or a different number one contender come about on this road. Because, like I said, now it kind of wastes Elimination Chamber with so much predictability. It's bad that these championship matches don't have any stakes, but at the same time, it's good because, again, if they did have the stakes, we would know Roman Reigns is winning because of the predictability of it. So it's good and it's bad at the same time in that sense.
Speaking of predictability, my way too early 2024 Royal Rumble favorites. You named them both. Gunter and Austin Theory. I think it's kind of obvious. We'll obviously we'll get down the line at that. So, but I like what you said though. I think you want to have somebody that's kind of at the tip of the iceberg, just about ready just to go to the moon, and then throw them at the unexpectedly win the Royal Rumble, and then they're already sent to the moon instead of already establishing them. I agree with that. I think that's a smart way of booking. But WWE's not going to do that. They typically like to build them up, and then, all right, we know they're really good, so now we're going to put them in, and win the Rumble. I mean, it's predictable, but you know what? I'm okay with, I don't care if Gunter or Austin Theory win it in 2024 and 2025 or whatever, going forward. I'm okay with it because the future is bright for those guys regardless. So I would expect them to, I expect them both to be Royal Rumble winners in the next 5 years. That's just kind of where I'm at with those two. They're going to be our stars when the Roman Reigns of the world are doing other things. So we have to build them up somehow.
And that's positivity. I have no complaints about Roman Reigns' world title reign because of the fact that, folks, I don't plan on dying anytime soon. There's so much wrestling on TV. There's way too much of it that I plan on watching it for the next very long time. So people saying, I don't like Roman Reigns champion for so long, they need to split it up. Don't worry, he won't be champion forever. This will pass. Similar to the announcement we obviously got this week with Tom Brady retiring, and he was winning all those Super Bowls, and people were saying, I'm kind of sick of it. Don't worry, he's not going to play forever. Enjoy this for its uniqueness, because when this is over, actually, you'll never see this again. So actually, instead of complaining, enjoy it, because when it's over, it's going to be the opposite. When Roman Reigns isn't champion for 3 years, we're going to have 5 champions a year for the next 3 years. We're probably going to have 4 or 5 guys just rotating in and out of the championship for the next year after he loses the belt. And one thing you can be concerned about, which we talked about Austin Theory just a second ago, is like when Cody Rhodes wins the belt, I imagine the world title is going to go small for a minute. I imagine we're going to have Seth Rollins. I imagine we're going to have Austin Theory. I imagine we're going to have these guys as competitors. So we're going to go from the, brawling brute guys like Roman and Brock and Bobby and Drew to more of those, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes matches that we like so much, where it's not so much Goldberg and Brock kind of like seeing who can knock the other one over, but a faster paced kind of match. And I feel like we're going to get a lot of world title reigns and defenses similar to that once the Roman reign is over.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know what, as a wrestling fan, I think those will be, some fun matches. There's a guy that I don't see him becoming a world champion, but I'd like to see him used more. And I did put it on my social media at Icebreaker21. Check that out. I was watching Raw this week, and Chad Gable is a guy that, to me, I feel like he puts on. I'm going to quote the I don't want to use the Banger Bros anymore. Can't really do that anymore, but banger after banger after banger. Chad Gable just puts on great matches. I haven't seen a bad Gable match. He's just really good. I just don't know if they'll ever put the world strap on him. I think what they'll do is they should use him as a U.S. Intercontinental Champion. I think he has the right. He's got enough personality to do it. He's got a great, he's got a good physique for being not a tall guy. He looks great. Pat McAfee said, he said it on the telecast. Every time he sees Gable, he's like, man, this guy looks great. Like he's an Olympian. So to me, you got to put the IC and the US belts on him. And if that would be a swerve if they put the main strap on Gable. But again, that Gable Rollins match on Raw this past week was fantastic. Give me some more Chad Gable. I put the hashtag out there, push Chad Gable. I would love to see it. I don't know if it's going to happen, but he's just one of those guys I feel like has always been underutilized. So we'll have to see what happens there.